And there were some really good suggestions in the comments. I've moved my string from hanging in front of me here. So that's wonderful. Thank you for the suggestions, everyone. And I'm kind of trying to talk to the camera a little bit more, but I'm still going to read like this. So I hope that's okay. But fundamentally, there's a lot going on. Coronavirus, we're going to touch a lot on coronavirus, and we're going to touch a lot on train derailments, of which there have been a lot. And I didn't know what I found out in the news article that I read today, so I'm going to tell you about that. Okay, first things first, New York Times is reporting yesterday, when can we go to school? Nearly 300 million children are missing class. That is a lot of kids, and I have kids, and they're in schools, and that's a concern for me. Okay, here's midway through the article. Only a few weeks ago, China, where the outbreak began, was the only country to suspend classes, but the virus has spread so quickly that by Wednesday, the 22 countries on 3 continents had announced school closures of varying degrees, leading the United Nations to warn that, quote, the global scale and speed of the current educational disruption is unparalleled. Students are now out of school in South Korea, Iran, Japan, France, Pakistan, and elsewhere, some only for a few days, others for weeks on end. In India, on Thursday, all public and private schools throughout the 5th grade were ordered closed through March in the capital, New Delhi, affecting more than 2 million children. Affecting, not afflicting. In Italy, suffering one of the deadliest outbreaks outside China, officials said Wednesday that they would extend school closures beyond the north, where the government has imposed lockdown on several towns, to the entire nation. All schools and universities will remain closed until March 15th, officials say. Now, I've got a friend, and the friend is going to work, has to go to work, and he says that my upper management people think that this is just a flu. And what I told him, and is what I'll tell you, when is the last time that this many towns have been locked down for a flu? I don't remember that ever in my lifetime, so I don't think that you could just dismiss this out of hand. So share the information. I started a COVID-19 header, and it's right beside Canadian politics. So that's how important I think this is, although right now it's not very full of stories, but I'll continue filling that up on Canada Report if you want to check that out. It's through the Canadian media, so filtered, but I'm pointing out stories that I'm seeing that I think are important, and there's a lot that's important right now. So pretty wild stuff, but you don't see towns in lockdown. You don't see universities shutting down. You don't see 700 million people quarantined in China for flu. That hasn't happened before. That's not something that's like, oh yeah, they did that in 2017. I remember, and everything's fine. This is outside of the normal, right? Don't let the media say, don't worry about it, it's fine. Outside of the normal, way outside of normal, okay? Moving on, shipping. Whew, this is crazy. Yesterday I said I wasn't sure what the difference was of the two shipping pictures. That's one, that's two. Do you see the difference? I see the difference this time. Holy smoke, right? Like, there's nothing there. Camera 1, camera 2. Right? Wow. Right? That's big. So I'm not sure which port that is. Did it say it there? It may have. No, I don't know which port that is exactly. I don't have a date either. That's Google Maps. Is there a date on the image? I apologize if there's no date. But it was posted yesterday for me. And I mean, be wary of images, right? They can be modified just like everything else these days. So just be wary of that. But that's what I'm seeing. So I'm not modifying images myself. Okay, Warren Buffett's company bails on Saguenay LNG project because of Canadian political context, promoter says. And Warren Buffett investment company Berkshire Hathaway has decided not to invest $4 billion in a liquefied natural gas LNG plant by the Saginaw port. The marine terminal to ship LNG to overseas market is slated to be built roughly 230 kilometers northeast of Quebec City at a cost of $9.5 billion. The decision by Berkshire Hathaway, which represents a major blow to the project, was first reported by La Presse Thursday and later confirmed by Radio Canada. Stephanie Fortin, head of communications for the company behind the project, GNL Quebec, said the company has lost a significant potential investor, but did not want to say who it is. She did say, however, that the company lost the investor because of the, quote, current Canadian political context. She said with instability in the last few weeks, such as ongoing rail blockades, foreign investors are getting nervous. This won't keep the project from progressing, Fortin said, nor will it mean job losses in the immediate future. She said the loss won't be without an impact, though. And so there's more to this as well. But that's not good. Foreign investors pulling out, shipping coming to a grinding halt, And Trudeau, responding to COVID-19, this is CBC News reporting, Trudeau says knee-jerk reactions won't stop spread of COVID-19. No, but stopping flights might. I mean, come on, right? Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada won't ban foreign travelers arriving from countries grappling with COVID-19 outbreaks, adding that knee-jerk reactions won't help stop the spread of the virus. Canada's approach differs from the protocols adopted by some of our closest allies. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed the United States is experiencing a low number of infections because it sealed borders to travelers coming from outbreak-affected countries. Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison announced Thursday that coronavirus-related travel bans on foreigners coming from China and Iran will be extended to South Korea. Australian citizens and permanent residents from those countries can enter Australia, but will be required to self-isolate for 2 weeks. Trudeau was asked today if Canada would take similar steps. Quote, "We recognize that there are countries that make different decisions. The decision we make are based on the recommendations of the WHO and the tremendous health experts who work within Canada and around the world," he told reporters at the event in Toronto. Quote, "We know that keeping Canadians safe needs to be done in the right way, and we're going to keep doing things that actually keep Canadians safe. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of knee-jerk reactions that isn't keeping people safe, that is having real challenging impacts on communities, on community safety." What? What kind of word salad did I just read? Oh my goodness, I just scrolled down, okay? Wow. Conservative health critic Matt Generu, excuse me if I've got that wrong, said the government should consider steps to contain the virus, such as more vigorous screening processes for people entering Canada, mandatory quarantines for those arriving from high-risk countries, and suspension of incoming and outgoing flights from high-risk areas. Quote, "These are some concrete measures that show Canadians and other countries that Canada is doing more than just depending on individuals to wash their hands often," he said. "It's critical for the government to be clear with Canadians on their plan to prepare for a possible outbreak and what the next steps are being considered. During a briefing with reporters Wednesday, Canada's Chief Public Health Officer, Dr. Theresa Tam, said again that sealing off borders is not an effective approach to containing the virus. She said border measures work better when they focus on educating travelers about the symptoms and what they should do if they get sick. How does that help prevent spread from people on airplanes? So say I'm not sick, and then I get on an airplane and become sick because another person was sick on the airplane, but I don't know that I'm sick, so I ignore the border warnings, and 3 weeks later, I have coronavirus. How does that help exactly, Miss Haydu? How does it, or Miss Tam? How does this help? It makes zero logic. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like the government's totally inadequate response. It's been absolutely dreadful, and this underlines just how dreadful. So it's awful, right? Like, I mean, welcome to a country that refuses to take this seriously. Absolutely refuses to take this seriously. Back to the article. No travel bans. To date, Canada has not imposed any travel bans. Instead, it's asking travelers returning from Hubei, China, you know, the epicenter of the outbreak. Right, it says the epicenter of the outbreak. And Iran, where a significant outbreak has occurred, to self-isolate for 2 weeks after they arrive here. Global Affairs Canada has issued travel advisories for various countries, which are updated regularly to reflect changing risk levels. We believe that travelers and Canadians are quite sensitized, so they're presenting to the health system in a very appropriate way, being fully alerted, Tam said. It's also a balance for the health system. There has to be some guidance as to how you triage patients going through the health system. The border actually is a great place to tell them which phone number to call and to call ahead so that you get emergency rooms, or so your clinics are not inundated should you not be required to show up as well. What? Ridiculous. And it's just unbelievable. Like, this doesn't help in the situation that I laid out earlier. Like, really doesn't help at all. Oh, and remember when Justin Trudeau went to Iran and shook hands with everybody? Remember that? Here's the picture. And it was from February 14th, right? Remember when January 22nd we heard about coronavirus? February 14th, there was this big international thing, right? And everybody's glad-handing, right? Right? Bowing down. Everybody's happy. Okay, good. And then a couple of weeks later, right? Oh, here's Business Insider. A member of the inner circle of Iran's supreme leader died of the coronavirus as the country records more deaths than anywhere outside China. Okay. Whew. So this is not the supreme leader. This is the Iranian foreign minister. But men kiss a lot in Iran. They kiss on the face, you know, both cheeks and all this stuff. During when Mr. Soleimani was killed by the airstrike, there was footage of one of the men crying and then the other man, like, you know, trying to console him and giving a kiss and stuff. that's partially why this is all blowing up in Iran. But I mean, there's potential that heads of state, not just Trudeau, but other heads of state, were exposed to this, right? That's wild, isn't it? 235. Moving on. I mean, I just think that the cavalier attitude is interesting, and the end of the article goes into misinformation. And I didn't read this part because I just won't. But because I'm sure that at some point in it they're going to tell me I'm racist or something to that effect for not wanting to have the virus. You horrible racist. Yeah, sure. So I just think that it's funny though, the cavalier attitude of Trudeau and, you know, the travelers, and oh, they'll totally present. What if they don't know, man? What if they don't know? Like, it's frustrating. And then, you know, the impact of, and the potential impact of this, not just Trudeau, but just the leadership of Iran, who we know has been widely exposed, right? They're all holed up in a hotel in Tehran right now. But the other world leaders who are exposed, the other aides of world leaders who are exposed, right? Like that's a big deal. That is potentially a big deal. What happens if Trudeau gives it to a lot of other MPs, right? And I mean, what happens if Donald Trump gets it? Who knows, right? I mean, wild, right? There's heads of state, they rub shoulders and shake hands and eat meals together and all sorts of other stuff. So it traveling in those circles, and it clearly is going to be impactful. Here's CBC News talking about a cruise ship. 235 Canadians among 3,500 passengers on a cruise ship quarantined over coronavirus. I'll tell you a quick story. I was going to be taking a trip over the March break, and I was going to probably be taking time off because we were going to do a road trip. And I didn't know how to tell, like, I haven't taken a day off on this for years. Like, I think it's been 2 years. 2018 started in April, or I started in March or April. So it's almost been 2 years, and I've done a video a day, which is really cool. So I was having a little anxiety about missing on my videos. So weird, right? But anyway, I'm not going, right? Like, what are you thinking getting on a cruise ship? Did you see what happened to the Diamond Princess? Don't get on a cruise ship. What a crazy thing to do. Oh, you know, it's a great time to travel. There's really good deals. Okay, back to this. Police are not probing recent rail disasters. This is the last story. I've got one headline to show you. There's one more headline here. But fundamentally, this is the last story here. Okay, so police are not probing recent rail disasters, crude oil derailments, deaths for possible negligence. I think this is a big deal because it just goes to the rule of law and who's in charge, right? Like, are people just allowed to sabotage our railways and have nobody even investigate it? It's really strange because that's what it seems like it's happening. Public police forces are choosing not to investigate major accidents at CN and Canadian Pacific Railway, including recent crude oil train crashes and deadly derailments, a CBC News investigation into Canada's rail system has found. Instead, the RCMP, Ontario Provincial Police, and other forces routinely defer to little-known federal railway police run by CP and CN, leaving the companies to investigate themselves with no outside police looking into potential criminal negligence. It's infuriating. Some families of workers killed on the railways who claim a double standard, where outside police are willing to move in to clear blockades along Canada's rail lines, but routinely don't investigate rail corporations in the event of major disasters or fatalities. It makes me angry, said Tara Jijan. Sorry if I got that wrong, whose husband was killed at CP's rail yard in Regina. I scroll down. Instead, outside police defer to the railway, which since the 19th century has employed their own fully authorized federal police forces, which have all the powers of regular police. But unlike public police, rail police lack any civilian oversight, are paid for by private companies, and are not governed by any formal police act. CBC has uncovered a string of recent major rail crashes where no police force of any kind stepped in, or only railway company police investigated, leaving what some say is a vacuum of accountability when it comes to potential criminal negligence on Canada's rail lines. In 3 recent derailments that leaked millions of liters of crude oil in Saskatchewan and Ontario, no police agencies investigated, CBC has found. In early December, when 33 tanker cars crashed and exploded southeast of Saskatoon, CP Railway said their police service did not investigate and referred inquiries to the RCMP. The RCMP has been involved and has jurisdiction, a CP spokesperson said. The RCMP appeared dumbfounded. Quote, "I'm not totally sure where you're getting your information," the RCMP told CBC, pointing back to the CP Police and the Transportation Safety Board as the lead agencies. "In this case, we were only there for traffic control and to assist if required with any type of evacuation," the RCMP said. 2 months later, just 7 kilometers down the same CP rail line, a second crude oil train derailed and exploded, forcing evacuation of the hamlet of Guernsey. Neither CP police nor the RCMP investigated, despite striking similarities in the crash on the same rail line where the regulators had earlier found problems with the track. In Northern Ontario, neither OPP nor CP police are investigating the derailments of an oil train near Fort Francis on February 18, 2020, involving 26 crude oil tanker cars, CBC has confirmed. Unlike in a highway car crash where police investigate, in a rail crash, the Transportation Safety Board, TSB, is the agency with the responsibility of probing cause and coming up with safety recommendations. But the TSB does not lay charges, and it says it's not legally competent to assign fault. The TSB says that's up to the police. The fact that TSB is investigating does not preclude any other agency from investigating in accordance with its own mandate. TSB spokesperson Genevieve Corbin wrote in an email, railway police say outside forces are welcome to step in. The RCMP not only have jurisdiction to investigate offenses that occur on CP property, but are duty-bound to do so, said CP spokesperson Jeremy Berry. Anybody watch The Good Place? Okay, back to this. The RCMP and other forces point back to railway police and say they won't intervene unless asked. The finger-pointing and jurisdictional dodgeball means that in Canada, public police forces seldom, if ever, investigate failures by railways in major disasters, including after a runaway train in the BC mountains last winter that killed 3 crew members. In connection with that crash, a Transportation Safety Board official has publicly called for the RCMP to investigate potential criminal negligence. And there's more, but we're going to move on. I'm just going to show you a couple of derailments. One in Kingston the other day, the 4th, and then yesterday again, the 5th. Freight rail derails near Prince George. Our trains are derailing at an alarming rate. It's not normal. Not normal at all. Here's the last headline for you. Trudeau appointed senators are refusing to pass a bill that bans foreign money in Canadian elections. Isn't that interesting? Who's donated to the Trudeau Foundation again? Right. Very interesting stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out CanadaPoly.com and CanadaReport.co if you're interested in COVID-19 information too. And have a wonderful, wonderful day. I got to get my mouse there.